All right, so diving in again, huh? Welcome back, everyone. We're all about going deep here on the deep dive, and today we're gonna tackle something pretty unique. I think something you don't see every day.
Definitely unique, yeah. We've got, well, it's a Murli, actually, from March 17th, 2025.
Okay, a Murli. So for those of us who maybe haven't encountered this before, what exactly are we talking about?
All right, so it's described as like a divine discourse, and this particular one is all about personal growth, but through a spiritual lens, which is, always interesting to unpack. And then there's this whole concept of cyclical existence woven in.
Cyclical existence. Okay, gonna have to dig into that. So we're going deep on this Murli, but what's the I guess the mission here? What are we really trying to pull out of this for the listener?
Well, I think it's about understanding, like, not just what it says on the surface, but like the internal logic of it. How does this Murley see the world? What's its unique perspective on things like self-improvement and even just the nature of reality? We're not here to judge, right?
Yeah.
Just to analyze and see what we find.
Right, totally. Unpack it, explore it. Love that. So where does this Merle, where does it even begin?
Well, it starts strong. It says, sweet children, study itself is earning. Study is the source of income. Through this study, you have to accumulate a treasure for 21 births.
Whoa, okay. Hold on. Study is earning. That's a pretty bold statement right off the bat.
Right. It definitely reframes how we usually think about education. It's not just about, getting a job or learning a new skill. This is suggesting that spiritual learning is like wealth creation, but on a whole other level.
Yeah, it's not about like stocks and bonds or real estate.
Exactly. It's a different kind of portfolio, one that pays off supposedly for like multiple lifetimes, 21 births to be exact.
Okay, so this isn't just about like getting ahead in this life. It's about something much bigger.
It really makes you think about long-term consequences, doesn't it? Like, what are we really investing in when we choose to learn something? This Murley saying, invest in eternity.
Invested eternity. Wow. Okay, so we're accumulating treasure through study. What comes next?
Well, then it gets into this concept of Shrimat.
Freeman. Okay.
It basically means divine guidance. And the Murli poses this question, like, what will be the signs seen in children who are under the influence of Jupiter, Brihaspati?
Jupiter, like the planet.
Right, exactly. And in this context, being under Jupiter's influence seems to symbolize a time of, like, positive growth and learning. And the answer to the question, complete attention to Shrimat, studying well, never failing. So Shrimat is like your spiritual instruction manual coming from the top, and following it leads to success.
Okay, but there has to be another side to this, right? Like, what happens if you don't follow Shrimat?
Yeah, there is. The Murli says Shrimat's violation leads to failing in study and being influenced by Rahu,
Rahu.
which is basically like the opposite of Jupiter's influence. It's all the negative stuff, distractions, temptations, bad habits, things that can throw you off course.
So Shrimat is the good path. Rahu is the not so good path.
Exactly. And then this is where it gets interesting for you, the listener. It says, right now, you children are under the influence of the father tree, bestowing the influence of Jupiter. So, according to this, right now is a prime time for absorbing these teachings and aligning yourself with that positive energy.
So pay attention, folks, because opportunity is knocking. This is your chance to level up, spiritually speaking.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
So from there, the Murli shifts gears a bit and talks about purity and impurity.
Okay, purity, impurity. Go on.
It uses this line from this world of sin
Yeah.
and presents it as like a cry coming from souls that are, feeling impure, lost.
Right, a cry for help, almost.
Exactly. But then it says basically that you, the listener, you're in a different place. You're on the path to becoming pure already, so that cry doesn't resonate with you in the same way. You're already on the journey.
It's like you're already in the process of
Oh,
like
okay.
spiritual cleansing, right? So you're not stuck in that same state of like feeling lost and impure.
Precisely. And it ties this whole journey towards purity to what it calls the great treasure of this knowledge.
The great treasure. Intriguing.
Right. And it even compares it to like how we study in school to take care of our physical needs. But this knowledge, it says, this is sustenance for the soul.
Okay, so we're feeding our souls now.
And get this, it claims that this specific gathering, this teaching, this true satsang, it's a one-time event happening only once in this whole cycle. When the Petit Pavan arrives,
Hold on, Katipavan.
the purifier of the impure, basically like the ultimate spiritual cleanser. So this isn't just another spiritual teaching, it's the teaching happening at a very specific, very crucial time.
So if you miss this boat, you're kind of out of luck.
That's the implication, yeah. It's like, a limited time offer for something truly life-changing. You got to pay attention while you can.
High stakes stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so we're purifying, we're gaining knowledge. What's the end game here? What are we working towards?
Well, the Murli paints a pretty clear picture. A new world. A pure world. A place where sorrow just doesn't exist. What many would call heaven.
Okay, so we're building heaven on earth.
Essentially, yeah. And it contrasts this future paradise with, well, the current state of affairs, which it describes as an ocean of poison, and Kali Yuga, the Iron Age, where everyone's suffering because of all the negativity and corruption.
So we're in the bad times right now, but we're working towards the good times.
That's the idea. And there's this mention of the soul crying out, Baba, we have become impure, like recognizing that fallen state. And it talks about how just doing physical rituals, like bathing in the Ganges, it's not enough for true lasting purity.
Interesting. So it's not just about outward actions, it's about something deeper.
Yeah, like if those rituals really worked, we wouldn't keep falling back into impurity.
Right.
So what does it take to create real, lasting change? That's the question.
And questions, big questions. Okay, where do we go from here?
Well, next up, we've got this whole concept of 84 births and the world drama.
84 births, that's specific. What's that all about?
Right. The Murli claims that the Father reveals the secret of these 84 births, something other religions have missed. Like the soul goes through a specific number of lifetimes within this cosmic cycle.
Reincarnation, basically.
Yeah, but with a set number. And they even talk about a ladder chart showing these 84 births and the Kalpatri and the Gita. So there's a structure to it, a framework.
Like a cosmic game board with 84 spaces to move through.
Something like that, yeah. But the Murli says that most people don't understand the timing of it all, like when and how the Gita was even spoken.
Uh-huh. So this Murli is claiming to have the inside scoop on this whole system of reincarnation.
Exactly. And it emphasizes the Father's role in establishing heaven, specifically at this time they call the Confluence Age, or Sangam Yuga.
Okay, so we're at a pivotal point in the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. But 84 births, that's a lot. It kind of makes this life feel small, you know?
Well, that's where the idea of the drama comes in. The Murli says that the drama, meaning this whole world cycle, it's unchanging. What's meant to happen will happen.
So it's all predetermined. That's a little, I don't know, fatalistic, isn't it?
Maybe. But it's not about just passively accepting fate. The point is, you, the listener, you're gaining knowledge of this whole cycle. You're seeing the patterns, the ebbs and flows of history and geography, all repeating across these 84 births.
Okay, so it's about understanding the bigger picture, the grand scheme of things.
Right. And the Murli uses these symbols to represent it all. The 84 birth ladder, the Trimurti, which is like the three aspects of God, and even the globe itself.
So we're talking about a pretty vast cosmic system here.
Definitely vast. And each age within this cycle lasts 1,250 years, apparently. The Murli describes this knowledge as like a mirror before the blind, finally revealing the truth of these 84 births.
So we've been in the dark for a long time, but now we're seeing clearly. Got it. So where do we go from here?
Well, now the Murli gets back to you specifically, the listener, and it reminds you that the Father sees you as being under the indestructible influence of Jupiter right now.
Ah, back to Jupiter. So it's still a good time to be learning all this.
Very good time. But then it contrasts this with the influence of your own personal cycle, like the effort you're putting in. And of course, the potential pull of Rahu, failure.
So it's not enough to just be in the right place at the right time. You got to actually put in the work.
Absolutely. And the Murli defines the influence of Rahu as failing in your spiritual study because you're not following Shrimat, that divine guidance. So it's all connected.
So follow the guidance, stay on track, avoid Rahu. Got it.
Right. And it really stresses the importance of dedicated study. No excuses, even if there are challenges, like being far away from a center or something. It compares it to people going on pilgrimages, all the hardship they endure for their faith.
So no complaining, no slacking off.
Exactly. And it even calls this whole process a university that creates Lakshmi and Narayan, the deities of the Golden Age.
Whoa, so this isn't just some casual study group. This is serious spiritual transformation.
That's the point. And it addresses all the excuses, like not having enough time, being too busy. The Father's perspective seems to be like, look, this is a chance to elevate yourself. Don't waste it.
So no snoozing allowed. What else does it say?
Well, from there, it gets into the nitty-gritty of like how to actually become pure, how to cultivate those divine virtues.
Okay, practical tips. I like it.
Yeah, it's not just theory. It's about application. It says straight up, Shrimat's guidance. Become pure. Imbibe divine virtues. So work on yourself, develop those good qualities.
Right, so it's an active process.
And it talks about how to live with others without getting sucked into negativity, using knowledge yoga as your weapon against impurity.
Knowledge yoga, like using knowledge as a tool for spiritual growth.
Precisely. And then it reminds you of the goal, to be rulers in that pure world, not rulers in the current impure world. Big difference.
So we're aiming high.
Always.
Yeah.
And then it gets into this interesting concept of the double crown of the deities, symbolizing their purity and power. But apparently this crown disappears halfway through the cycle.
So we're in the single crown era now.
It seems that way, yeah. Except maybe for the founders of religions, they might still have a bit of that light crown energy. And the Murli ties this back to India's history, talking about double-crowned and single-crowned individual, and how the double-crowned ones were super revered.
Like they were the real deal.
Exactly. And then it describes this divine court called Indra Sabha. It says that through this knowledge, the listener can become like a fairy in this divine court.
Okay, fairies, divine court. This is getting pretty mystical.
It is, right. And it talks about Radha and Krishna, how they're naturally pure but then become shyam, or dark, after being on the pyre of lust. So it's tying their descent into impurity to this cycle we've been talking about.
Okay, so even deities are immune to this cycle. Interesting.
Right. And it makes a point of saying that you won't find these truths in regular scriptures.
So this is exclusive insider knowledge.
Precisely. And then it lays out these three pillars: knowledge, devotion, and detachment.
3 pillars. Okay, break it down.
So first, knowledge itself. And it emphasizes how important this specific knowledge is, the one you're receiving right now. Like, this is the foundation.
Okay, this is the good stuff.
Then devotion, which is pretty self-explanatory. And finally, detachment, or vidragya, letting go of your attachment to the tamapradhan world, the most impure state, which is going to end anyway.
Detachment. That's a tough one for a lot of people.
It is, but it uses this analogy of building a new house. You know, once you're building a new one, you're not so attached to the old one anymore.
Right, you're ready to move on.
Exactly. And this Murli is talking about detachment on a grand scale, letting go of the entire old paradigm, and focusing your intellect on the new world, Shivalaya, the abode of Shiva, which represents the golden age.
So eyes on the prize, new house, new world, same idea.
Exactly. And then it describes the current world in some pretty stark terms. It calls it a brothel, a veshalaya, something you should feel revulsion towards.
Wow, that's a strong image.
It is, but it acknowledges that some people don't feel that revulsion and end up going down destructive paths. It's like humanity is stuck in a river of poison, hurting each other, caught in negativity.
So it's a choice point, basically. Do you cling to the old or embrace the new?
Exactly. And it mentions that saying, why eat poison after leaving nectar? But says that people don't really grasp its true meaning in this context. Like, they're missing the opportunity for true purity.
Missing out on the good stuff. So how do we make sure we're not missing out? How do we stay focused on the path?
Well, the Murli acknowledges that people will understand these teachings at different levels, but it uses this analogy of a teacher knowing when a student's mind is wandering, like if they're yawning or nodding off.
We've all been that student, haven't we?
Right. And it specifically says that yawning during spiritual study, that's a sign of tiredness, of mental distraction. But then it says when it comes to worldly pursuits, we're not tired at all. It's all about where our energy goes.
Shows where our priorities are, doesn't it?
For sure. And it reminds you that the Father is giving you this immense treasure of knowledge, and yawning is like throwing it away, going bankrupt.
So wake up, people.
Right. Pay attention and let go of those worldly thoughts about your home, your family, whatever. Focus on the teaching.
Total immersion. Okay, what else?
Well, it gets into this concept of being in a furnace, a bhati, for purification. Like, it's an intense process, and if you're thinking about other stuff, writing letters, whatever, you're not fully in it.
You got to be all in, huh?
Completely. And it describes the listener as being like a great patient for half of this cycle, suffering, facing death, all that. Unlike the Golden Age, where everyone's healthy and lives a long time.
So we're in the sick ward right now, basically.
Essentially, yeah. But there's the possibility of seeing visions, Sakshatkar, of your future deity form, like a glimpse of your potential.
A sneak peek of the future you. Pretty cool.
Definitely. And it connects all this knowledge to the idea of going from beggar to prince with the goal of becoming like Radha and Krishna. That's the ultimate aim, it says. Their reign lasts longer than Lakshmi and Narayan's.
Okay, so Radha and Krishna are the top two.
According to this, yes. And it points out that most people don't realize that Radha and Krishna eventually become Lakshmi and Narayan later in the cycle.
So it's all connected.
Everything's connected. And then it shifts gears again, talking about all these spiritual centers that are opening up all over the place.
It's like a spiritual boom.
Exactly. It calls them university come hospital, providing both knowledge and healing. And they don't even need much space. Some people will even open them in their own homes.
So accessible spirituality. Nice.
Right. And it contrasts this with material wealth, which is temporary, with the spiritual inheritance you're getting from the Father, which lasts for 21 births.
So invest in the eternal, not the fleeting.
Exactly. And the Father's advice: keep your mind on the new world, even while you're still living in the old one.
Stay focused on the future, but keep your feet on the ground.
Right. And always observe everything through this lens, this new perspective you're gaining. It also stresses pure actions and seeking guidance from the surgeon, the Father, for any inner illnesses you might have.
So we've all got some spiritual baggage, huh?
We do, and each person's baggage is different, so the surgeon gives personalized advice. And it warns about those negative actions, the karma. Watch out for those.
Right, got to stay vigilant. Okay, what else?
Well, then it talks about food and how it affects the mind. You know that saying, as is the food, so is the mind.
I've heard that.
Well, it ties that to the karma of eating meat, suggesting that what you consume impacts your spiritual state.
Makes sense. You are what you eat, right?
Right. And then it stresses honesty, complete honesty with the Petit Pavan Father. Like, you wouldn't lie to your surgeon, right, if you want them to heal you properly.
Honesty is the best policy, as they say.
Absolutely. And it describes the Father as this unlimited, imperishable surgeon that the world doesn't even know about. You, the listener, you have access to this incredible healer.
Lucky us.
Right. But it acknowledges that even with all this knowledge, you might not always remember it perfectly. Yoga, that connection, it's a work in progress.
All works in progress.
Exactly. And it describes this process of reaching the karmatit stage, the state beyond karma, after which the final battle begins.
The final battle. So this is like a spiritual war.
In a way, yeah. It's about overcoming all the negativity and establishing the new world. And until then, there will be conflicts, challenges, until the kingdom is finally set up.
The kingdom, that heaven on earth we talked about.
Precisely. And most people don't even know it's coming.
They were in for a surprise. Okay, what comes next?
Well, now it gets into the different states of the intellect. Sato Pradhan, which is highly pure. Sato, pure, Raho, which is like royal or active. And Tamo, impure.
So 4 levels of intellectual purity.
Yeah, and it says that those with the Sato Pradhan intellect, they'll remember the knowledge best. Then it talks about Brahmins, spiritual students, and how there are those who follow the mother and father's guidance and those who follow Raven's guidance.
Raven, like the demon king.
Right. So those are the negative influences, and it calls those who try to follow both, it calls them lame.
Can't have it both ways.
Nope. And then it brings up this song about longing for a place of peace, and it connects that to heaven, Satyuga, which is total peace, no sorrow at all.
Sounds pretty idyllic.
It does, but it reminds you that right now it's Kali Yuga, so heaven isn't here yet. But as your intellect gets purified, you'll naturally earn respect from those who are still impure.
Purity equals respect. Got it.
Exactly, like how renunciates are revered, even though they've renounced everything. But it distinguishes between them who were born impure and then renounced, and the deities who are totally pure from the start.
Okay, so there's a hierarchy of purity.
There is. And then it talks about how joyful you should be feeling as you learn all this. It even says to ask others who are studying, the Gopis, about their transcendental joy.
So this knowledge should be making us happy.
It should. It talks about the intoxication of hearing it for the first time, but how that can fade if you hang out with the wrong people. It uses this analogy of swans and herons, you know, pure and impure, they can't stay together for long.
Birds of a feather flock together.
Right. And the Father's guidance is to become Sukhdai, a giver of happiness, and to help others become that too. And it reminds you that the current world is a land of sorrow with tough times coming.
So enjoy the good times while they last.
Yeah, and don't regret not taking this opportunity while you have it to receive this inheritance from the Father. It also says to bring others who are strong and can understand and explain these teachings.
Spread the word.
Exactly. And it clarifies that the Father, Shiv Baba, you can't see him physically, but you can know him intellectually, just like you know your own soul, but you need divine vision to truly perceive him.
So it's about seeing with your inner eye, not your physical eyes.
Right. And that divine vision allows you to see the golden age, which will then become real in the physical world. And the final thought is when you reach that karmatit stage, beyond karma, that's when Pali Yuga will end.
So it's all up to us, ultimately. Our spiritual progress determines the fate of the world.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It is.
And
Yeah.
that's the end of the Murli. It ends with these salutations.
Yeah.
Sweetest, long lost, and now found children, remembrance, love, and good morning from Mother, Father, Batata. Salutations from the spiritual father to the spiritual children.
Okay, so a lot of love going out there. What else does it say?
Well, it gives the essence for imbibing, which is to keep your mind on the Father and the new world, watch your actions, and consult the surgeon for any inner issues. And of course, avoid bad company and be a giver of happiness.
All good advice. Any final words of wisdom?
It shares this blessing. May you be a world benefactor who gives rays of peace and power to all based on your elevated feelings. It explains that it's about channeling the Father's love, filling your thoughts with good intentions for everyone, becoming a master knowledge sun, radiating peace and power.
So we're all little suns spreading light.
Exactly. And the slogan is, Eineness and mindness. This is the door of body consciousness. Now close this door.
Let go of the ego.
And the last bit, the unexpressed indications are, adopt the culture of truthfulness and civility.
Truth and civility. Can't go wrong with that.
Right. And it says that real truthfulness means experiencing divinity in everything you do, thoughts, words, actions, relationships. Just being outwardly truthful isn't enough.
It's got to be deeper than that.
Exactly. And it encourages you to be patient, to endure any hardship, because truth will eventually prevail.
Truth will out. So we've covered a lot of ground here. Spiritual study, divine guidance, cycles of existence, purity, the power of our thoughts and actions. It's a lot to take in.
It is, but hopefully it's given you some food for thought. This Murli presents a pretty unique perspective on personal growth and the nature of reality.
Definitely unique. And it really emphasizes the idea that we have the power to change ourselves.
Yeah.
And in doing so, change the world.
It's a powerful message. So as you go about your day, think about those areas where you might be feeling the pull of Rahu, those distractions, those negative influences. How can you align yourself with Shrimat and really experience that positive energy?
And what kind of treasure are you building? That's the question, isn't it?
Until next time, keep diving deep, folks.
Keep learning, keep growing.
And most importantly, keep exploring.